In the beginning there was this tiny little dust particle that was all dirty because dust is dirty. The dust felt pretty alone and he was all like, I wish there was more dust because dust is pretty cool, yo. At that time he cut himself in half because that seemed like a good idea at the time. It wasn't long after that when he had a huge fight with his newfound friend and they got into a huge fight. That's when they ran into each other at full speed. Pew! It was a tiny bang, but they told everybody else it was big. Ever since then, people have exaggerated their stories. That collision led to dust being spread everywhere, which was very bad because the space is pretty allergic to dust. Dust began to go everywhere as phlegm built up in space's nose, and it was so nasty when it came out in sneezes. It was also sad because there was no one there to say, bless you. All that mucus started piling up into a ball and it was all moldy and ooey and gooey and watery and gross. Over time it hardened with some watery stuff in between there. The mold started to have a life of its own and there were so many different types of mold. One of the more majestic ones were the dinosaurs, followed by the koala, but he was always an a-hole, probably because he has two penises and they're both tiny. The mucus dried up so much that there was barely any of it left, just the dust that caused it as well as some water there too. Dinosaurs had to work hard because they would get weak whenever they didn't eat any other species of mold. I would rather not work and just have fun instead, is a famous quote by Dino John, a very famous dinosaur. And so they did that. They began to make things that reduced work and made more time for fun. They also invented little potions that made them live longer and feel better when they felt crappy. There was so much extra time that they began worrying about little things they never worried about before, such as what type of mold species they would eat or even how they looked. It got so crazy that they started to experiment to change themselves. This was actually very popular with the T-Rex, who often opted for longer arms. It was a crazy time. They were becoming more lazy and less logical. Stupid, some may say. They got so lazy that they started to pay high amounts of dinero, that's dinosaur money, just to watch other dinosaurs live their own life for them to watch. They danced. The T-Rexes loved to disco dance with their new long arms, and they also licked frogs and snorted caterpillars. They got on top of each other so often that Mucus Land was running low on space. Too many dinosaurs. Up in space, that solitary speck of dust that began it all got angry. All he wanted was a friend, and after all the trouble the speck of dust went through, the dinosaurs didn't even acknowledge the importance of dust in their existence. They literally stepped on dust every day. They felt above dust and above everything else. One day, as they were having a disco party, Mr. Dust picked up full speed and crashed into Mucus Land. This was a big crash, and so dust began to go everywhere, surrounding the dinosaurs and choking them. One by one, they all started to fall down, dead at the hands of the dust they always ignored. A long time passed until the dust finally settled down, but a lot fell into the water. This became a muddy substance that once it hardened, it started to walk and talk. But that's a story for another day.